Welcome, everybody. You guys excited? Now we're getting better. All right, how many new folks do we have? Raise your hand. Thank you. Welcome to your first time. If you have not noticed, my name is Clark Sell. I have probably sent you an email. If I didn't, you have your email address wrong in our profile system. On behalf of myself and everybody else in an orange shirt, I want to say thank you for coming. We're going to have an amazing 3 days. We have worked our rears off for the last 8 months to try to set the stage. And I want to start with a quote. This is like speaker, no, you're never supposed to do this. But the price of success is hard, dedication to the job at hand, and a determination of whether we will win or lose. We have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand. This is by a gentleman by the name of Vince Lombardi. If you are a Packers fan, I'm sorry, because the Bears are better. Hey, I'm going to do it every year. Every year, I'm going to stand up here. No, I think we won the last game. But this kind of rings home for me, right? We write software. We spend a lot of hours sitting at a desk applying ourselves to change the world. 4 years ago, we decided to do this thing so that we could get everybody together and help change the world. Now, lady by the name of Amy Cuddy. You will find her on a TED Talk. She now works at Harvard. She was a Princeton grad. Came up with something called fake it till you make it. And it turns out it's true. So I want everybody to stand up. Yep. This is an activity. All right. She did a whole bunch of scientific research because she's really smart and smarter than me to figure out that you could actually fake it until you make it. And she calls it the power pose. If you stand like this, so everybody stand like this, be proud and strong. No laughing, be proud. There's like 5 power poses. And doing this for just 2 minutes will not only raise your testosterone, but lower your cortisol and make you more confident. She statistically proved that if you do this before a job interview, you are more likely to get hired. Keep standing like this. Ask yourself, why are you here? Why did you come? The 15 people who put on this event, the only thing we can do is set the stage. We can get the speakers, we can get the bacon, we can get the keynotes, but you have to make it your own. You have to talk to the person next to you. All right, you guys can sit down. Now, he's looking it up. I don't believe it. Everybody look it up at once. Let's see if the network crashes. No, it's not crashing this year. But seriously, ask yourself why you're here. What are you going to get out of the next 3 days? Make it your own. This is our 3rd year, okay? We're still in startup mode. We need all of your help. This is everything. This is all of us. This is a we thing, not just the guys in some orange shirts, but it's a we thing. You're part of this. You make this happen. And because of that, we need your help doing it. We look at that conference as a 365-day-a-year thing, not just the 5 days that we're on site. We have IRC rooms. We have a whole plethora of stuff to get involved. The next 3 days is about the high-velocity conversation. Meet the next person. Meet the person next to you, right? And then carry that for the next 365 days. Now, we have made a ton of improvements on the website. You all complained that it wasn't mobile responsive, so we deleted it and rewrote it. Thank you, Bootstrap. We've made a bunch of session changes. We are going to keep tweaking the session. So on our profile system, log in, you can you can add your phone number, an email address, and the minute I change the schedule, you will get notified as to where it went, okay? We have TVs outside with the schedule changes. Please check it. We've had some speakers that have gotten stuck in Boston. Somebody's lost their voice, so we've been moving some stuff around. We've also swapped some rooms. Based on how you favorited stuff, we've tried to put people in the right size rooms so that's there. So please just double check that. And if you get lost, you are in Wisconsin at the Kalahari Resort, and it's all right here. Now, another big piece for us is the family, the real bosses. Every year we've grown. This year is no exception. There's over 150 more people this year than in years past. We have kids from the ages of 2 to 16. They're a great dynamic into the thing we're doing. All of you are their star. Whether or not you have kids or not, some kid is looking up to you. The next 3 days is you're the superhero that uses these computers and does this thing. There is not enough people in our industry to meet the demand that's going to happen over the next few years, which is why we continue to do the family thing, okay? This year we have 3 kids who are speakers. We've worked over the last year to try to get them ready, give them what they need, ask their parents for approval, to integrate them into this thing that we're doing, and we are going to continue to do that. So if you see a kid that's lost, find somebody. Let's make sure that they get around. Let's make sure that we are respectful at all times. We will not stand for any harassment. We've never had a problem with it. I don't think we're going to have a problem with it either. But realize there are little munchkins running around. Now, last year, we had some problems with some Wi-Fis. We think we got it fixed this year because we tested it at CodeMash. So we should be good. If not, let me know. I'm sure you will let me know. Try not to use your Wi-Fi because that's just going to mess up the access points anyways. There's plenty of bacon, even though there's a shortage on pork. Multi-year contracts ensure that we have enough bacon at appropriate prices. Now, there are a bunch of people running around in orange shirts. We may smell by the 3rd day. But you can find them at any time, ask them a question. If you have a problem with the Kalahari, I think it's at Kalahari Meetings. Hit them on Twitter. But again, find anybody in orange. We will definitely help you do what you need to do. Now, my ask of you, I want you to dive in. We have stuff planned day and night. We have some fun surprises. We're going to have a good pig roast. We're going to have a bunch of family at the pig roast. The family this year, on the back of the family badges, is their sessions and the things that they're allowed to attend. We have twice as many sessions for the kids this year than we did in the past years. We have a robot. We've been working with Twilio. So on Tuesday night, we have this robot that we're going to dump into the water park, or into the pool in the water park, and let the kids drive this thing around. So it should be a whole lot of fun. We've also worked with the Kalahari such that people don't actually have to leave the pool. You will need your badge at all times when you're getting around. You get a discount at the restaurants if you have a badge. The security guards won't kick you out if you have a badge. At the water park on Tuesday night, if you have a badge or your family's at the water park already, they're going to say, just kind of step over here. They're going to clear the pools, and then they can jump back in. So we're lined up to have a good time. Open spaces is a big deal. We dedicate half of our sessions to that. We're going to kick it off at lunch today. We'll get that stuff on the schedule so that it shows up on the website, and you can throw it on your schedule. If you haven't done that, embrace it, try it out. It's growing year over year, and it's pretty critical to the experience that's here. Embrace the community. Look, there's 60-some thousand professional developers between Chicago or Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. 60-some thousand. There's 1,300 of you guys here with your families today. You showed up. You care. Not that they don't care, but they don't care as much because they're not here, so what are they doing? I've spoke up and down the central region. I've spoke across the United States. Very small percentage of the software developers that are slinging code today invest in themselves outside of their day job. Look around. There is almost 1,000 people here. The collective knowledge that sits in this room is easy to change the world. You may be working with somebody that's sitting next to you in a few years. The guy sitting next to you or the girl sitting next to you may have actually already solved the problem that you have today. So look around, meet these people, shake their hands, have a good time, and of course, be respectful. Because at the end of the day, none of us are as smart as all of us together. All right. Lastly, every year we have a keynote every day. When I think about everybody who's speaking and the things that they're doing, I know that you guys could go Google, Bing it, figure out what sessions or what you need to know to go do your job. So when we plan for the experience here, we have to think about how is it more than just the content in the room, right? Because you could go to Pluralsight or lynda.com and you could go get it in an hour. And you don't have to drive here and eat the bacon. You could go make your own bacon. So it's about the conversation, right? It's about the experience that's sitting next to you. And when I try to find keynoters, I try to find people who can do one thing, and that's to inspire you. Because you're going to get down in the weeds the rest of the day. So the way I want you to start your day is not only to be fed really well, but be really jacked up to do your craft. And when you ask people, do you think you can inspire 1,000 people to work on their craft? That's a scary requirement. But, nevertheless, we find the best every year, year over year. And this year, I'm ecstatic to have Elizabeth join us today. So with that, warm round of applause for Elizabeth Naramore.
Hey, can I use your power plug? I realized I left mine in the room, and I'm afraid I'll just die. Thank you.
We both have the shiny ones with the same fruit.
Okay, thanks.
Are you live?
I think I am. Hi.
All right, Mike, you can kill.
Look at this. Everything works. So I've been asked to just take a quick minute to recognize the sponsors. So make sure you guys stop by their booths and high-five them for being awesome and supporting such a great event. That will mean a lot to them, and it will also make sure that they come back next year. So yay, sponsors. So when Clark first sent me an email and he invited me to speak, of course my first thought was, does he have the right Elizabeth? Like, are you sure about that? Because there's a lot of awesome Elizabeths around, so I just, I wasn't sure if that was the right one. But he never caught on, and now it's too late. So you're stuck with me. He asked me to speak about what I'm passionate about, and that's kind of a loaded question because I'm passionate about a lot of different things. So I could speak for hours on any of these things. I like to draw mandalas. They're really fun. They relax me, and they're really interesting to me. Sometimes I color them in, sometimes I don't. I really, really like fantasy football. I usually play in multiple leagues. I may or may not be the co-commissioner of our league this year. So I usually don't win the league, but I always have a winning season, so I'm proud of that. I collect old books. I go to garage sales, estate sales, things like that. I have a Tumblr called I Heart Old Books, where I write about the most exciting ones that I find. I know you guys are thrilled about that, but I like it. I don't know. I think it's cool. I also really like to write. I published my first book this year on Amazon, so I was really excited about that. And I know maybe some of you, my friends in here, have read it, probably no one else. But I am working on the second one, so that's exciting. I'm on chapter 5. It's pretty good. But the thing I'm most passionate about is the community, and that's all of you guys. I wanted to tell you about my journey and why I care about the community so much. But I have to go all the way back to 1981. So this is a picture of my family in 1981. A little younger than that there, but it's pretty close. Because we were a very stylish family, weren't we? It was awesome. And if this was in color, you would be able to see the lovely shades of browns and orange and green that were in there. It's fantastic. So it's 1981. My dad's a computer programmer. He's also an engineer. And my mom is learning Fortran on punch cards at Northern Kentucky University. And my brother is 13, excuse me, and he's teaching assembler at a high school on Saturdays to adults as like a continuing education kind of thing. And so, I also partook in that. My first program that I wrote was in BASIC, and it would predict who I was going to marry. So that was awesome. Sadly, I did not marry Rob Lowe or Ralph Macchio, so I don't know what that has to say about my programming skills. I maybe need to level up a little bit, but I thought that was normal. I'd come home from school, and we would get on the bulletin board systems, and we would play our games on the cassette tape that you plugged into the computer. And my brother and I would play Dungeons & Dragons, and we had this big bag of Smarties that we would just eat. I don't know why. But I thought that was normal. I thought that's what everybody did. And it turns out that really wasn't the case back then. And I grew up in a smallish town on the east side of Cincinnati, and it was a pretty rural town, and no one had computers then. No one did. So when I went to school and I was all excited, about this stuff, I got made fun of. Of course, I got made fun of, because that's what kids do. And so I realized that maybe this wasn't the thing for me. Maybe I just should be normal, and I shouldn't follow this passion. So that's what I did. I decided I didn't want anything to do with computers, that I just wanted to be normal. So I went to Miami University. I got a degree in organizational behavior, and I still find that stuff really fascinating. But I want nothing to do with computers at all. So I got a job in marketing after the fact, because that was the only job I could get. At that time in '92, the job market was really pretty bad. So I got a job in marketing. And funny, they were copying and pasting a lot. We sent mailings out all the time, and they would copy and paste and then in this Word document, and then send it all out at once and print it off and all those things. So I said, this would probably be a little more efficient if we did this in a database. And oh my God, I was a genius. Oh, wow, what? Which is really funny, because I'm totally not a genius at all, but apparently they thought that was cool. So it just kind of started falling back into the computer thing. It's in your blood. You can't get away. You can't. So fast forward then to '97, I decided I'm going to teach myself HTML. So this was my book. And it's a fantastic book, and it's really, really well worn. So I taught myself HTML. I started doing websites for people. And then I decided to learn PHP, so I grabbed that book, and I taught myself PHP. And I did okay. I did fine. But I wanted to do some more advanced things with PHP that I wasn't sure how to do. So I did what we started to learn how to do then, and I started to Google and look around, and I found a forum, and it was called phpbuilder.com. Has anybody heard of that? Okay, I see a few nods. Okay, so I found phpbuilder.com, and I decide I'm going to lurk for a little bit and just see what's going on. So I do that, and then I decide I'm going to post my question to the forum. And I will tell you how that went in just a minute. But first, I would really like to talk about our brains, because our brains are really weird things. I don't know if you've noticed. And despite our best efforts and the brain's best efforts at keeping us alive, sometimes our brains really work against us. So I want to talk about negativity bias for a minute. Negativity bias is one of the many, many cognitive biases that we have. And if you ever think that you're acting in a rational, logical way, and that the people around you should be acting in a logical, rational way, you should go to Wikipedia and just look up cognitive bias, because you will see the like 40-some ways which we twist things around in our head, which we do things that don't make sense. And negativity bias is just one of those things. Psychologists, researchers, they attribute this negativity bias is when you give more weight to negative experiences than you do to positive ones. And they attribute this to survival and evolution, right? Because if one bad thing happens, like, you could die. So we pay attention to those things. And anything that's positive, well, as long as it didn't kill us, then that's okay. So we're really basically just trying not to die. So what our brain does is that it will register those negative experiences. We register a negative experience immediately, and it immediately goes into our long-term memory. Whereas a positive experience, it takes 5 to 20 seconds for us to even be aware that it's a positive thing. And from there, we need to be aware and have it in our full mind that this is a positive, good thing for 12 whole seconds before it will be stored in our long-term memory. Now, if you don't think 12 seconds is a long time, just try sitting and thinking about something good for 12 seconds. Like, we could do that now if you guys want, but that's okay. It's a really long time, and it takes effort to make that happen. Negative experiences have a greater impact on us than positive ones, which means that if we have $20 and we lose the $20, we will feel that more than when we got the $20 in the first place. That loss will be felt greater to us than when we got it in the first place. Negative experiences hurt us more than 2 times. So for every negative experience you have to have at least 2 positive ones to kind of balance things out. And that's really hard to do sometimes, isn't it? It's hard to make that happen. We learn faster from negative experiences. That means if something bad happens, we will not repeat it again, whereas positive ones takes a few times for us to learn that lesson. The interesting thing, too, is that babies are just as effective. It's not a learned behavior that we have. It's something that's happening in our brains. There are 5 times more neural networks dedicated to the negative affect as opposed to positive affect. And negative affect is the level at which we feel things like anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, anger, hate, all those bad things. We have 5 more processes by which we remember those and think about those. So we spend a lot of energy focusing on negative stuff. And it's hard to overcome that, because that's what our brain is set up to do. I want to talk about being a problem solver. How many in here would consider yourself a problem solver in your daily job? Okay, quite a few of you. I do too. I think the thing that when you're a problem solver, the thing that is interesting to me is that when you're a problem solver, the things you focus on are the problems. Because that's what you do. You fix stuff. So you look at what's broken. And when you look at what's broken all day long, and your friends look at what's broken all day long, well, it's really easy to just think that everything is terrible, right? Everything's broken, nothing works, it's awful. And it's really easy to forget that of these 5 thumbtacks, 4 of them are actually okay. It's just the one. It's just the one that's broken. But that's the thing that we focus on. I really like this quote. The fundamental difference between creating and problem solving is simple. In problem solving, we seek to make something we don't like go away. So we're focusing on the things we don't like. But if we consider ourselves to be creators, then we're making what we want to exist. And the shift is subtle, but I think it's a really important kind of shift in the way we think about ourselves and think about what we do for a living. Let's talk about social rejection. That's a fun topic, huh? Social rejection is an extremely powerful motivator. It's what motivated me to not even want to do computer stuff at all, right? I wanted to be normal. And again, researchers and scientists blame evolution for this, because we did better when we stuck together, right? We survived better, longer, when we were taking care of each other. So in short, we need each other. even if you don't want to admit that. You need each other. This is really interesting. When scientists look at your brain, the activity, the parts of the brain that register physical pain overlap with the parts of the brain that register social rejection. So I could come up to you and punch you in the arm and tell you that I don't like you, and you would feel that the same. I find that really fascinating. We also release the same painkillers when we feel rejected. Our brain will release the same painkillers that it does when we've been physically injured. Those opioids. When we have to conform what we think we should be doing with what society's telling us we should be doing. Hi.
Can I have you take your earring off?
Is that distracting?
Yes.
All right. I should take the other one off too, just so I'm balanced. All right. So anyway, when we have to change our behavior to fit what we think we should be doing, our brain reacts as if we had been told that we were wrong and that we should change our behavior. So even if it's an intrinsic motivator, it's still, we have the same reactions. We don't even have to get the negative feedback. When we feel misunderstood, there are negative chemical changes in the brain. It's not just that you feel misunderstood. There are things happening in your brain that relate to that. Also, if we feel disrespected, slighted, and undervalued, all of those things are making chemical changes in our brain. What happens, too, is that when we have those chemical changes in our brain, the brain has a weird way of seeking things to perpetuate that state. So they call it a negativity loop. So if something bad happens to you, your brain releases all these chemicals. Well, now all these chemicals are just floating around in your brain. So then you start to look for things that would make that make sense. For instance, have you guys ever been rear-ended? Who's been rear-ended in here? A lot of people have. It sucks, right? But if you notice, once you get rear-ended, you kind of are looking in the rearview mirror, just waiting for it to happen again. Just waiting, because you know and you're going to be ready when it happens. You're on red alert, like high, super alert all the time. Well, for a while. And then you kind of regulate. But it takes some effort, right? It doesn't happen right away. And the same thing happens when we feel misunderstood, undervalued, disrespected. We start to look for those things. And we find things that absolutely confirm our suspicions that we are undervalued, and we can prove it, and we're ready, and we know. And it's called a negativity loop, and it's really hard to get out of. And rejection sensitivity is basically the spectrum at which we feel these things. So on one end, you have people who really don't care what other people think at all, like the Batman with the Speedo on the rollerblades. You guys have seen that? Like, he does not care at all. And then on the other end, we have people, and it's actually considered a disorder, where you're just actively looking, and everything is an affront. Waiting in line is an affront. Having to wait for a table at a restaurant is an affront to you. It is a sign of disrespect. So there's a wide range. And scientists don't know if it's because if it's a behavioral thing, if it's a genetic thing. They don't know what causes it, but it's something to be aware of, that we don't all fall on that spectrum in the same way. I'm a little higher on the sensitive. I'm sensitive to it. As I get older, I'm moving down because I don't care as much, but it's an interesting thing. So when if you feel like someone got offended too easily, well, it's something to be aware of. Well, maybe they're just a little different on that scale. And it's not necessarily something that they can just man up and just get over, right? It's harder for some people than maybe it is for you. Imposter syndrome is a fun thing too, right? This talk does it gets better, I promise. This is like kind of depressing, I just realized. Imposter syndrome, like who in here feels like they might have imposter syndrome? And if you're not familiar with what it is, it's a feeling that at any moment you're going to be found out as a fake and a fraud. You have no idea what you're doing, and you're just hoping to God that no one can see that, right? A lot of people do. Neil Gaiman, Maya Angelou, a lot of actors and actresses, they've spoken publicly about this because it's a thing. It's a thing that we do to ourselves. And I'm going to talk about this again in a little bit, about specifically why in technology it's a problem. And that manifests again from those insecurities and the self-doubt just kind of feeds into itself in that negativity loop. The curse of knowledge. Has anybody heard this phrase before? Not really? Okay. So this was a phrase that was coined by economists back in 1989. And what they were trying to do is explain why some of the top salesmen weren't the most knowledgeable about the product. And the curse of knowledge is a cognitive bias, another one, that basically says that the more we know, the harder it is for us to empathize with someone who is new. Because we forget at what point we learned things, and we forget what beginners don't know. And it makes us harder. It's more likely to make us frustrated and lose our sense of empathy for someone else who is just beginning. So they've explained this in other industries too, but I think it's really interesting, especially in technology, because of the wide array of which we have all gained our information, right? Some of us have computer science degrees. Some of us went to a boot camp or some other kind of like high-powered, intensive training. So some of us are self-taught like me. So there's a lot of chances for holes to be in our knowledge somewhere. And when we get frustrated because someone doesn't know something, well, they should have known that. Really? How? We don't have, we're not like the medical profession where there is a clear-cut path of education. There's a lot of chances for things to not sink in and for that information to not come to you. We also will consistently overestimate, falsely, how many people know the thing that we know. We consider things to be common knowledge, and we have the context around things that not everyone has. Sometimes our technology works against us too. This is a shock to you guys, I know. But did you know that we judge things faster and harsher online? Shocking, right? And here's another shocker for you. Anonymity increases the likelihood that we're going to be jerks to each other. That's a shock too, I know. And I think it's interesting to see that it didn't just start with the internet. It actually started back in the 70s with a little thing called a CB radio. Do you guys know what a CB radio is? Who does? A few people. Yeah, all right. Old people like me, it's awesome. So CB radios are short band radios that they were used a lot in the 70s because gas prices were really high. There wasn't enough gas to go around, and there were speed limits on the highways of 55, right? So the truckers would use CBs to communicate with each other on where to go for gas or where cops were sitting and waiting to get you, right? Smokey and the Bandit, right? This is awesome stuff. So when the CB, and you had a handle, mine was the Pink Panther, thank you. So the CBs, what happened was when those movies started coming out and people got kind of more into it, then it all just went to hell. Bad behavior. People realized they could say whatever they wanted and nobody knew where they were, nobody knew who they were, and no one could get to them. So they just said whatever they wanted without repercussions. And thankfully, with the invention of the cell phone, that kind of went away. The truckers, they weren't so thrilled with this new community that had joined them of jerks, right? So we didn't really learn our lesson very well then. But I wonder why is it that we do that? There's a Dr. John Suler, and he has coined this phrase called the online disinhibition effect. And there's actually 6 reasons why this happens. The first one is dissociative anonymity. And that basically says that you don't know who I am, and I have a mask, and I'm protected, so you can't judge me. You can't judge me. And the second one is invisibility. You can't see me. You don't know what ethnicity I am. You don't know what gender I am. You don't know how tall or short or fat or thin or old or young I am. So you can't make judgments about me and my appearance. So I can say whatever I want. Asynchronicity. This is basically the fact that you can just drop a comment, drop a bomb in a forum somewhere and never come back. Never come back. You don't have to feel the repercussions of how you've affected other people, because you can just never come back. Solipsistic interjection, that's basically the fact that I can make whatever kind of persona I want about you as the user. So I can say, well, you are a jerk first, or I don't like what you have to say, I'm just gonna create this thing in my mind about you, make a persona. Dissociative imagination means that everything is just a game. It's not real life. It's just the internet. So, what's the big deal? And then finally, minimization of authority. That means, society's rules don't apply here. We can say whatever we want. They don't apply. So we got a lot of stuff here, right? A lot of not great stuff. And all of these things just bring us a bunch of FUD. Our lives, it's very easy for our lives to be run by fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I'm not going to talk too much about fear, but at 10:30, Jeff Blankenberg has a really awesome talk on fear. So if that's something that you are struggling with, I highly recommend that talk. Jeff is an amazing guy, and I dig him. But really, fear affects us physically in a not great way. It has physical effects on us. We're less creative when we feel unsafe and when we feel like we're being evaluated. Well, we just said we judge things faster and harsher online, right? That's hurting us. That behavior is hurting our ability to be creative and innovative and wonderful. Positive moods make us better problem solvers, make us more creative, more innovative. They enable us to, enable us to more effectively conquer our fears. So there's a thing called exposure therapy. Do you guys know what that is? It's basically if you're afraid of something, it's exposing yourself to it in little chunks so that you kind of build up your confidence and build up the immunity to that fear. And researchers found that when a person it's a really effective way to overcome a fear. But researchers also found that if you have a generally positive outlook, the results of that are going to be much, much better and last a lot longer than if you have a negative outlook. We handle stress better, we perform better. And when we're uncertain, it just makes us more likely to be anxious, depressed, and need approval from others, that social rejection. It also contaminates our healthy relationships because we don't believe that the other person's being genuine. If we have insecurities about ourselves, we're interacting with someone online and they happen to say something, even if it's nice, sometimes we don't believe that because we have all these reasons why that's not true, why that person is just saying that. And then finally, self-doubt increases that sensitivity to rejection, which isn't a good thing for anybody. So basically, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is self-destructive. We cannot have healthy relationships, a healthy mind, and a healthy community if we're making decisions based on fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and if that's our driving motivator. It's self-limiting. We can't be the best versions of ourselves we can be. And our community can't be the best version of itself that it can be if it's driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And it's toxic. It will kill us. And if we are supposed to be the creators of the future in technology, fear, uncertainty, and doubt cannot run our communities and our lives and our relationships with each other. It just can't. But all is not lost because we have two things going for us: individual choice and individual knowledge and awareness. We can't control what other people do, but we can control what we do, and we can control how we react to things. Before I go on, I just want to throw this out here really quick. Amy Jo Kim is a researcher and an author, and she kind of came up with this membership life cycle for a community. So I want you to kind of think about where you personally fit in this. The first one is peripheral. So these are kind of the lurkers. They're not really sure how the community works. They're not very active. They're just kind of hanging out. The next one is the inbound, and they are more of the just starting to kind of dip their toes in the pond. They might post a few things. They're a little active, but not the most. Insiders are the regulars. They're there all the time. They're very active in user groups, forums, things like that. Maybe they're giving a talk at a conference. something like that, writing articles, books, whatever. Boundary, those are the leaders. So that would be like a Clark, someone who's creating conferences or running a user group or speaking a lot at conferences, things like that, really be seen as a leader. And then the last one is the outbound. These are kind of the elders of the group. I hate that word elders because I'm an older person, so I don't like it when people call me an elder, but yeah, those are the people who've been around for a long time and maybe they're just kind of backing away and letting other people kind of take over. So I want to mostly focus on these three groups. If you're one of these three groups, raise your hand if you would consider yourself one of these three groups. And the rest of you are kind of in the beginning. All right, awesome. So those of you who just raised your hands, no pressure on you, but you are the ones who are responsible for making the community what it is, right? So if you mess this up, then we are all doomed. So just remember that. No pressure, no pressure. But really, you're the ones who shape the community. You're the ones who set the boundaries and the rules and the cultural norms of the community. You're the ones who are setting the examples for everyone else. So every time we interact with each other on Twitter, on Facebook, on comments, on chat, on pull requests, on issues, on whatever it is, in real life, too, that's a thing, we create a ripple. We create a ripple. We affect another person's life. And you have a choice as to what kind of ripple you're going to make. I'm a big believer in choice. Sometimes you think you don't have one. You always have a choice. You always have a choice on how you handle things, on how you react, on how you behave. So sometimes we make mistakes, and it's a little frustrating, right? Sometimes other people make mistakes, and that's even more frustrating. So what do we do when we find a bad piece of code or something dumb that someone has done? Well, we run to Twitter, of course, and we tell the world about it. Right? We search on GitHub for this phrase that's really terrible, and then we post the results to Twitter so that everyone can see and everyone can have a good laugh at how dumb these people are. God, I can't believe they would make such a dumb mistake. We have daily WTF, right? Where people every single day for like 10 years, we've been hearing stories of dumb things that people have done. We are great at public shaming. That's like our thing. Well, you know, there was another one too. There was a comic just last week about how not to write a bug report. And it was kind of funny, I'll say, but like when we do these things, what are we creating? We're creating a culture of fear. Well, no wonder we all have imposter syndrome, for crying out loud. It's just a matter of time before it's your code that everyone's making fun of. I find that really fascinating that we do that to each other. Like maybe our problem isn't that people write dumb bug reports. Maybe we're just really crappy at showing people how to write good ones. And you know, sometimes we don't even understand why things are the way they are. We have zero context about a piece of code that's written or the way something's architected. And because we weren't involved in those conversations. So we just come in as an outsider and we just say, oh, this is ridiculous. I clearly would not have done it that way, because that's like the worst possible way you could have done it. But I'm going to tell you a little story. And we're really crappy at documenting things, too. I don't know if you've noticed that. But we could be better at that, too. I have a whole other talk on that. That's a whole other rant that I have, but I won't go into that today. I will tell you a story. When my kids were little, they were babies. I had my appendix out. My mother-in-law at the time came to help out. So I'm sitting in our kitchen chair, and I'm kind of trying to sit up, helping her. She's unloading the dishwasher, and I'm trying to show her or tell her, direct her on where things go. And she pulls out the sippy cup, and she says, where does this? She starts to put it in the cabinet. And I said, no. That goes in underneath in the little pan thing, the lid. They can go right on there. She's like, well, why would you do that? Well, that's so that Emily, my daughter at the time, she's still my daughter. My daughter, she was little at the time. She can get her own drink. You know, she can reach the cup, she can get her own drink. Okay, that's fine. So then it came to the pan lids. Well, where am I going to put these? Because now that the sippy cups are here. Well, the only cabinet we had in the kitchen that was big enough for them was like across the room by the refrigerator. So she put the pan lids over there. And as she's doing this, and then, whatever was gone there had to go somewhere else, as she's doing this, I realize if someone came into my kitchen at that moment, they would think I was an insane person. Like, what is happening in your kitchen? Why is stuff all over? It doesn't make any sense. But it made perfect sense to me and to our situation and to the family. And that's what worked best for us. So just remember, when you stumble across a piece of code that you think is ridiculous, you have no idea what the conversations were that led to that. And there may be valid reasons that are not documented somewhere. So don't be so quick to judge. So I want to know, the next time you come across something that maybe is a mistake or not that great, are you going to perpetuate this elitist code thing? Or are you just going to maybe offer your assistance and say, hey, I noticed that you're doing it this way. Maybe there's a better way. I'm just saying. Or maybe you write a pull request and submit it instead of just making fun of someone, mocking them. So we like to judge stuff a lot. We like to judge what other people use to write their code in, what language they're using, what editor they're using. Like, we love to just judge, and we love to be right. So I was at a conference a few months ago, and I was talking to this gentleman from Mexico, and he was a professor. And I work for GitHub, and he was asking if we could come and help them learn GitHub, teach to their students and teach to their professors. And I was like, sure, of course, we would love that. And so he started talking about kind of his situation down there, and he said, I don't even remember how this came up, but he said that he was using Dreamweaver to write his code. And I didn't say anything, but I'm sure the look on my face was like, really? Wow, that's weird. Because I used that like in '97, and I guess I just assumed people have gone on to something else. I don't know. But then I felt really bad. He hung his head, and he just kind of said, yeah, I know, we're in the dark ages. And I felt really, really bad, because you know what? It has no bearing on my life whatsoever what choice of editor he uses, right? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Maybe it wasn't even his choice. Maybe it was just, came from on above that you will all use Dreamweaver and you don't have a choice in that matter. It doesn't matter what language we write in or what editor we use. Because you can write great things using whatever tool you have. You can do that. So I just want to know, next time you find yourself having that conversation, are you going to be a Judge Judy? Or are you just going to say, hey, rock on. Man, you use that Dreamweaver and you make something awesome, right? Just make something awesome. I don't care what you use. So I want to tell you about my daughter. This is not my daughter. My daughter she just turned 14, and she starts high school this year, which is really weird. But this was a few months ago. It was her last day of school at middle school. And the way our middle schools work is that we have about 6 or 7 elementaries. They all feed into one middle school. That's huge, like 2,000 kids or something. And then they split them apart into 2 separate high schools, which are, of course, rivals. So it's kind of strange how that works. So it's the last day of school, and they had a dress code, right? Their shorts had to be certain length, with the fingertips, and the girls knew how to game the system. They just raised their shoulders up. So it's like, yeah, my shorts are totally long enough, which of course they weren't, but teachers, they got other things to do than just be the dress police. So my daughter had this pair of shorts, and she wore them all year. And I kept saying, you're gonna get in trouble. You are gonna get in trouble for that. And if I have to come to school, I'm not gonna be very happy about that, okay? She's like, oh, it's fine, Mom. They don't care, it's fine. So last day of school, 7 a.m., guess what happens? Mom gets a phone call. I need some yoga pants, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, are you kidding me with this? 7 a.m., I was in bed. She had been with her dad, like really. So I wasn't very happy. But I got up, I was like, I knew she was gonna get in trouble. I got up, I drove her the yoga pants, and on my way back in, she texts me and she says, Mom, never mind, they're not gonna make anyone change, because there's too many girls. They just decided not to make anyone change. I'm like, oh, it's too late. I already took you your damn pants, all right? You're gonna wear them, because that's what happens when you break the rules. And so she, of course, got all upset because she's the only one and blah, 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 blah. So we have this conversation, and it's getting more defensive and aggressive, and I'm like, what is your problem, And she's like blaming me, and I'm thinking, I'm not the one who did this. Like, I thought I was doing you a favor by bringing you some pants so you didn't get in trouble. Like, I don't really understand what's happening right now. And at one point in the conversation, she says, this is the worst day ever. I'm crying in the bathroom. I'm the only one that has to change. I'm never going to see my friends again. And I don't even know where I'm going to put these shorts because I can't get to my locker now. And that phrase in the middle, I'm never going to see my friends again, then it hit me what was going on. It had nothing to do with the dang shorts, very little to do with the shorts. And it had everything to do with the fact that all of her friends were going to the other school. And she's 14, she can't drive. Yeah, they have Facebook, but she's not going to be able to see her friends. And they'll be considered rivals now. And she doesn't know this new school. She doesn't have her schedule. She has never been in that school. She has no idea what to expect for high school. And the anxiety and the stress that was on her was incredible. So I had two choices at that time, right? I could have just kept on giving her there are kids dying of cancer, and you're complaining about shorts. Like, come on. I could have gone down that road and just kept getting madder and madder. My spoiled brat daughter, what? But then the other part of me says, I understand, I get it. I get what's happening here. So I texted her and I said, Emily, I love you. This conversation is now over. We will see your friends. We'll sort this out together. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you when you get home. And then I just shut the phone off. Or she sent me a real quick text and just said, fine. Fine. Whatever. Teenagers are awesome. If you don't have them yet, man, I thought toddler age was hard. Oh my gosh. So a few hours later, she's off school, and I get a text back from her, and she says, I'm really sorry for being a jerk, Mom. It was just a really hard day. That's all that needed to be said. And that conversation, that relationship between us could have gone much differently. But you have the power to realize that everyone in this room is struggling with something, even if they may not show it, and they'll put a happy face on. Every single person in this room is struggling with something, whether it be financial, health, maybe a divorce. I've been through that. I've been through all of that. I've been through financial hardships. I've been through divorce. I've been through abuse and anxiety and depression and fear. I've been through the thing that would make me say, I've been through that thing that would make me say trigger alert before we could have a conversation about it. I've been there. I've been through health issues. I had health issues this year. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is actually kind of an interesting disease. It was kind of cool. I was reading about it. It was kind of cool. But now I have a little pill thing. I have one of those things at the pharmacy that you keep track of all your pills so you know if you're taking them or not. That's weird. I shouldn't have that yet, but I do. And I feel great now. I feel much better now. But, that was a struggle this year, and that's been really hard. And every single person in here has similar stories, right? Everyone you meet. And I know I'm not done. I will never be done with struggle because none of us gets out of here without it. No one. And we say, oh, why me? Why did this happen to me? But really, why not you? Everyone is struggling. So when you interact with somebody and it feels like they're being exceedingly defensive and aggressive, maybe they're just struggling with something that has nothing to do with you or nothing to do with the subject at hand. It's a possibility. Just keep it in mind. So again, you can jump to conclusions. You guys remember that from Office Space? The jump to conclusions mat. So you can make a knee-jerk reaction to something, right? And you can just get immediately angry and just knee-jerk it. Or you can take a minute and you can provide a mindful, thoughtful response and seek to kind of understand what's really happening as opposed to just reacting. So I'm going back to another thing about choice and the paths that we take. Sometimes we choose a road that kind of ends in this, where we just get stuck in the mud. Maybe it's a relationship we've been in, or a job, or a city we live in, something. An open source project we contribute to, maybe. When you're stuck like this, you should keep in mind that you have a choice to change whatever it is that's keeping you stuck. And I have another whole talk about that too, called Stop Drinking Spoiled Milk, which you should look at. If that's you, you should Google that somewhere. But the thing is, you have the power to choose. You don't need anyone's permission to make changes in your own life. Even if you think you do, you don't. You know, it's interesting. So I work on the community team at GitHub, and we see about 5 requests for sponsorship every single day, rain or shine. So what that means is that you could go to an event every single day of this year, and you would hit maybe 20% of them. Because that's all the only ones that, that ask GitHub for sponsorship. So those are the only ones that I am fully aware of. But think about that. There are thousands of events and user groups and open source projects. So many opportunities to get involved and to find your people and to make a difference. You have no excuse to not do that. And if something's not working for you, okay. You have limitless choices to try something new, try something else. Let's talk about knowledge and awareness. So our brain is kind of screwed, right? We've decided that already. But the thing is that we can also change it. We are not locked in. You can retrain your brain to think new thoughts. 6 weeks. And it's actually going to change the way your brain will process things. You can do that. It's a thing that we can do. So, if you feel that negative coming on, you can just stop it. Stop it in its tracks. And you just change, and you focus on something positive. A general sense of positivity comes with practice and with training, and there are lots of research articles to show that. When you look at Olympic athletes, they don't just train physically, right? They train mentally too, because that's part of the battle. And they keep that positive, that self-awareness going, that self-affirmation. Other professions do it too, like pilots and doctors, ER people, nurses, ambulance drivers, right? You don't want your pilot being up there and just coming on the loudspeaker being like, you guys, I'm not really sure if I can do this right now. It's kind of scary. Like, no, I want my pilot to be completely confident that he can do this or she can do this. So you can change the way you process things. You can make yourself a more positive person. You can go through empathy and compassion training, and that will, again, change your brain patterns. These are things that you can do. I thought this was really interesting. Practice in mindfulness, so like meditation or exercises in awareness of being fully present in the moment, actually changes the gray matter in your brain, specifically the areas that are related to empathy and stress reduction and positive affect. So love, kindness, compassion, affection, those kinds of things. They used to think that the brain was just a static blob, that you got to a point and it just stopped growing. And that is not true at all. You can absolutely change your brain. That's awesome. That is a really cool thing. Practice in mindfulness also can decrease burnout and increase self-compassion. And self-compassion is different than self-pity, right? Oh, poor little me. And it's different than self-esteem, which is having confidence in your abilities to perform a task. But self-compassion is more of that, yeah, you're struggling. It's okay. Self-forgiveness. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay because everyone is struggling and everyone makes mistakes. And when we're more compassionate about ourselves, we're more compassionate about those around us, which seems like a really good thing. When we express gratitude towards one another, there are actual chemicals that are released in our brain. One of them is oxytocin. It bonds us together when we just say thank you to someone. Pretty cool, right? That's cool. And it also helps you be a more positive thinker when you express gratitude. So all of these things were helping to control the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. All of these tools we have to do that. This was cool. Sometimes we can actually have our technology help us. We're just on the cusp of this, I think, and this is really neat. So this 14-year-old, I was reading about this the other day, this 14-year-old did a research she did a research study with 1,500 teenagers. And she gave them a list of malicious and mean and hateful comments, and she said, would you be willing to post these? And 67% said yes. And that seems like a lot of people posting those mean, hateful, angry messages. But what she did was she put in an alert, and it said, are you sure you don't want to rethink that? Because that is a mean, hateful, angry message. And when that little alert came up, less than 5% of the teenagers said that they would still post that. So we're just on the cusp of these things. There's hope. There's hope for us. We're not all terrible people, right? We can overcome that online disinhibition stuff. And we can remember that there are actual people on the other side of the screen in front of us. Now we're going to get back to what's important here, which is, of course, me. So I posted those questions. You guys remember that from the beginning? You still with me? All right. I posted those questions way back in the day in 2002 to phpbuilder.com. And the result was that those guys were amazing. They were so helpful. And they weren't condescending, and they didn't criticize me for not knowing. They were truly excited to share their knowledge with other people. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I hung around there. I became a moderator on the forum. I started writing this weekly article on what's new in PHP. So I read everyone's blogs, and then I would distill it into a thing. And those articles are actually still out there. I just checked a little while ago. From 2006, I think, now we're at. So, which is really funny. I don't know. I thought it was funny. And then eventually, PHP Builder people said, hey, do you want to go to a conference called ZendCon, which is a PHP conference out in California, and do a little write-up about it? I was like, oh, yeah, I love that. So I go to ZendCon, and I have a little press badge, which is kind of weird, because that's not really what I do, but that's how I got there. And I was, people were kind of looking at me like, oh, what are you going to write about? Every conversation I have, they were like, is this on the record or off the record? I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I'm not a journalist. I'm a developer. But I went there, and there were maybe 6 women there out of 300. I don't know. It was completely overwhelming. I felt like the biggest hack in the world, because I was just self-taught. I was a mom from Ohio. Like, I didn't know, and these are like people who worked on the core of PHP, and what? I mean, it was crazy. And so I went to my hotel room at the end of the day, and I just cried. I cried for like 2 hours because I didn't know what to do. I didn't fit in. I felt really weird. How many people have never been to a conference before, ever? A few of you, right? It's a scary thing. It's a really scary thing when you don't know another single person, and then you're just expected to just, okay, throw us all in, and I've got to find some place to sit at lunch, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know who I'm going to sit by or chat with, or it's a really scary thing. So I applaud you. Good job. But so I went there, and then I sat in my hotel room, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have this wonderful opportunity to be at this conference, and I'm so overwhelmed and insecure that I can't even leave my hotel room right now. And so I mustered the courage to go down to the little drink up that was happening, and I sat down with the guys that I had glommed onto at lunch because they had an open spot, and I found them, and I was like, oh, I know you. But I didn't really. I just met them, right? But I recognized them, and I was like, hey, how's it going? And so then they left, and 3 men sat down by the name of Wes Furlong, Andrzej Zmiewski, and Marcus Berger. And I knew the names because I stalked all of the PHP core people and their blogs to write this thing. And they sat down with me, and I was just thinking in my head, don't say anything stupid. Just keep your mouth shut. Just don't even open it, because you will say something dumb. And they were just awesome, just down to earth, genuinely awesome guys. And I really appreciated them doing that because I didn't know anyone there. And from there, I kind of got more involved in the community. I co-founded PHP Women, just to give us a place to kind of go and hang out and see each other. I got involved on IRC and on chat and in other forums and other places in our local PHP user group. And I led that for a while. right? So all of these things, and now I work on the community team at GitHub, which is a really awesome job. I'm very, very grateful for that. But all of these things led me to stay in the community and to care about it even more. And these are just some of the people who have made positive ripples in my life, and they may not even know it. There's 800 people up here, and that's not even all of them. Just a simple friendly hi. Hey, how's it going? Hey, I enjoyed your article, or here's a better way to do this, that have educated me, that have made me better. Just little tiny things have made all the difference in my life. And I'm extremely fortunate, and I'm extremely grateful to all of these wonderful people. There is one in particular that I wanted to just mention. Sorry if I get a little emotional, but Mr. Jim Wyrick was a much loved member of the Ruby community. He was much loved in Cincinnati, and we lost him this year. And he was just a great guy. He was truly excited to share knowledge with people and the joy of discovery. He's like a little kid, you know? He was never condescending or aggressive or angry. He was just a great guy, and everybody loved him. And he made you feel so special. I want to tell you a little story about my son. He was 5 at the time, and we were at Code Mash up in Sandusky, which is also at the Kalahari, but over in Sandusky. And it's a conference similar to this. We were there, and I had my family with me at that time. And we live in Cincinnati, and we realized, which is about 4.5 hours away from Sandusky, we realized right outside the city limits that we had left my son's favorite lion, which we called Mr. Lion, because we're not that creative in our family. So we left Mr. Lion at the Kalahari. Oh, no. If you don't have kids, just try to remember the most prized possession of your childhood, right? Being lost. Sucks, really sucks. And if you have kids, and you know that there's that one thing that they have that must be taken everywhere, like imagine not having that, and it's not a good situation at this point. And so my son was devastated. We were like, oh no, we can't drive all the way back up there and look for it, you know. So I think I maybe posted something on Twitter about it, and I get a response from Jim, and he says, I have Mr. Lion. It was at Lost and Found, and he was still up there in Sandusky. And he says, I'll bring it to you. It's like, oh, Jim, that's so great. Thank you so much. But the thing about Jim is that he doesn't just do things lightly, you know, he's like all in. And so along the way, he took pictures of Mr. Lion having an adventure on the way home, right? So what he did was so precious to me that he took that devastatingly terrible experience for my son, and he turned it into the most awesome one, just by that simple act. And I'm sure to him it was absolutely no big deal at all. He was just having fun. But to us, it was a huge deal. And I am so thankful to have known him. That's just who he was. We still have Mr. Lion. My son is 10. Yeah, we still have it. It's kind of like a Calvin and Hobbes thing, I think. I don't know. So my question to you guys is, what kind of ripples are you going to leave on the people that you interact with, on Twitter, on Facebook, in comments, in real life, in pull requests, in issues? What kind of ripples are you leaving? They don't have to be big ripples, right? We can just leave tiny ones, and they make a huge difference. Maybe you'll empower somebody. You'll give them the tools they need to be a success, or you'll be a mentor to someone. You'll give of yourself. Maybe you'll educate them without condescension, without judgment. That curse of knowledge, we can get over that. Maybe you'll just be a helpful person. I mean, you're all really smart people, I can tell. And I know that you have a lot to say and a lot of information to share with others. You should do that. Maybe you'll just be someone's friend Maybe you'll be the friendly face that when you see someone searching for a place to sit at lunch, you say, hey, there's an open seat right here, you want to sit down. That's all you got to do. Hey, what do you do? How's the conference going? What kind of talks have you seen? What's your favorite? Like, you can reach out to that person who's feeling pretty insecure about being here and just be a friend. Or just, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I know that you have had some problems. What's happening? How are you? Maybe you'll help someone in need. Like, we see this from time to time in our community, don't we? People are struggling. Maybe you'll just be a helping hand. There was a PHP core developer who lives over in England, and he found himself and his family homeless. Like, his landlord just kicked him out, sold the house. And he had nothing. And he had 2 small children. And the PHP community circled around him and offered to donate some money and helped get him back up on his feet. Like, I love that. I love that. Because that's what we're about. That's what matters. Right? That's what we're about. Maybe you'll invite someone to join a project with you, something that you're passionate about. Maybe you'll seek out diverse perspectives. Maybe you will celebrate someone's successes and let the failures just fall away. What an awesome community we would have if we just celebrated each other a little bit more. Weren't quite so hard on each other all the time. Maybe you'll encourage someone, urge them to submit a talk to a conference, or write that article or blog post they've been thinking about. Sometimes that's all that someone needs, just a little nudge. So this is unrelated, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, because I thought it was kind of funny. Saturday, I was out in my flower bed, I was weeding, and I hear on the loudspeaker, great job, you can do it, you're almost there. And I was like, I don't really know what's happening right now, but yeah, I can totally weed these. Yes, I'm on it. I'm on board with this plan. This is great. And then I realized that, of course, it was the 5K that was happening across a few streets down. So it really wasn't meant for me personally, but I took it. I'll take that. And I thought how awesome that would be if I just had a guy following me around all day with a little megaphone saying, you're awesome, Liz. Great job. Keep it up. You are almost there. I would love that. My son thought that would be a little hard to focus, but I don't know, I would be worth it. So maybe you will create something new. Maybe you will write that blog you've been thinking about, something that wasn't there before. Maybe that will be all because you took the time to do it, or created a conference like Clark and his team, or started a user group, or wrote a book. Because the thing is, you don't need anyone's permission to do any of those things. You absolutely have the power to do all of those things. And there's no reason for you, if you want to not do it. Create something that wasn't there before. Maybe you'll tell your story to someone else, and maybe that will inspire them to do something, to take action, or to not be afraid of taking a risk. Maybe you'll just say thank you more to your coworkers, to your friends, to people who have written tools that you use every day. To anyone you interact with that has helped you in some way. Maybe you'll just take the time to say, hey, thanks for that. That's all you need to do. It's not a big deal, but it makes a huge impact. And imagine if our community was centered more around gratitude than blame. I think that would be an amazing place to be. Maybe you'll just accept someone for where they are in their journey, right? Because we're all at different places, both on our professional knowledge and just on our lives and things that are going on. Just accept someone for who they are, not need to change them or convince them that you're right. Maybe you'll forgive someone that has maybe been a jerk to you in the past. And this is a big one, because that's hard to do. It's really hard to forgive ourselves too, but it's so huge, right? If you can just have a drink with someone or have a coffee with someone that maybe you haven't got along with in the past, make amends, just forgive them, let it go. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Because all it does is just hurt you. It doesn't hurt them. If you harbor that anger towards other people, it's not hurting them. It's not hurting anyone else but you. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and anger and hatred, all of it's tied together. Maybe you'll seek to understand a point of view instead of judging it immediately. or understand what someone's talking about. Maybe you'll just respect a differing viewpoint. Even if you don't agree, we can still be respectful, right? I don't expect us all to agree all the time. That would be weird. But we can certainly be respectful. And finally, maybe you'll just care. Maybe you'll just care about the community. And sometimes I think that's enough. So imagine our community if we made these kind of ripples all the time with everything we did, and every time we saw something negative, we decided to do 2 positive things for someone. Imagine what kind of community that would be. Imagine the legacy we would leave for our children. You know, it's funny, those guys at PHP Builder, they're still there. 12 years later, they're still there answering questions, hanging out. That's amazing to me. That is an amazing amount of patience. Oh my gosh. And they don't see themselves as heroes, or they're not famous, they're not loud on Twitter. I don't even think they're on Twitter. It doesn't matter, because they're consistently just making ripples all the time. All the time. You don't have to have a loud voice, you don't have to have a lot of followers. You can make those impacts just by little things. And I know that it's really hard in a sea of negativity to find the awesome. But I say find the awesome, follow the awesome, and let the rest fall away. It doesn't matter. Let it go. I'm so excited to be here because when I was growing up, this wasn't a thing, right? There was no community. And I'm so happy to have found you guys because we all like computers and technology and the joy of learning and creating new things. That's awesome to me. That's awesome to me that our kids have that opportunity. All of these conferences and user groups, and it's overwhelming. And I'm so thankful to have found you guys. And I'm so happy to be here with you. I think together we can really change our culture and make a community that is not driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but that's driven by love and compassion and kindness and enthusiasm and excitement and creativity and innovation. That's the community I want for our future, for the future of technology. And you know, I don't know if you have noticed this, but people kind of pay attention to what's happening in technology, it seems like. And the way we treat each other matters. It matters. So remember that. The way we treat each other really matters. And we could set an example for how a community should work for the rest of the world, really. All I have, my name is Elizabeth. I love you, and you are awesome, all of you. Thank you very much. Oh, there's Dr.
Thank you. I got chills. Before I let you depart into the vast Kalahari Resort, one very important piece. To make this happen, we've partnered with all of our sponsors. The way we can sell a ticket for $400 is to offset that cost by partnering with people in the industry who care about events like this, okay? They offset almost half the cost of all of you getting all the bacon. Visit them, see them, talk to them. They have a unique story. They have a reason for being here. Every year, we've turned away sponsors to come. And as the guy who writes the check, and we just barely squeak over zero, that's a scary proposition when you tell somebody, I'm sorry, but you're not a fit for what we're doing. We've done it every year. So the people that are out there are the people that we feel like care and should be here. So you guys all have a chip on your badge, not on your shoulder, on your badge. It has, an identifier that you can exchange contact information with them. If there's a problem with it, let somebody know at registration. That's how we're going to do some of the raffles. Talk to them, get to know them. There are some awesome people out there that have worked with us for the last few months getting ready. and let's enjoy ourselves. All right? You guys ready?